start here. I know you have a time constraint, and it's likely that your work and my work is the only work that's going to happen on this one. I might have
So what is the what effect this? Looking at the testing of these things, what is our concern or any concern that we might have about what this means? Is that I can't address whether any of the looks pretty reasonable.
Yeah, generally these standards, the first editions always tend to be dilutive, meaning they just capture the broad contours of the topic and lay down some markers and definitions. And so while it's often dilutive, it's also the place where you want to make sure that the landscape is appropriate, that you don't see any insidious opportunities for market making or other type of additional costs.
I see.
And
okay.
One of the things, or lack of safety too. We're not against that. So I guess we're first safety, and then simpler, lower cost, longer lasting. What you can see here is that one of the first things I look for is, are there any other colleges or universities on this committee? You are able to see my screen, is that right?
See, yeah, there are a bunch of people in here. Florida Energy Center. These all look like, some of them look like manufacturers of the
right,
stuff. Aztec Solar, Aquatherm, so forth. Holocene Technologies, that's pretty cool. Well, I don't know that I do see any. There was
that's pretty much.
Something of a couple community colleges or something.
There are no colleges or universities.
Yeah.
There are none, as best I can tell. Now, are others that would take the point of view of somebody actually buying these? It's not clear to me. Some of these, often you'll get a consultant that might be concerned with cost and safety. I think they're all interested in safety. So let's just assume it's cost that we're looking for. Is there anything in the rating system that they're proposing here? And so most of this appears to be informed by manufacturers, and that's not. And also by other standards development organizations. So
I see that ASTM's there.
So one of the things I just wanted to lay a backdrop for what we're doing here, and let's try to get this done like within less than 10 minutes. Is that we know, as I've tried to explain in our website here, that in the standards development process, there are three broad categories: user, general interest, and producers. We're actually going to be talking about some length, but you don't see that balance in this first draft. And it's very often it's not the problem of the standards developer. It's the problem of the industry itself. And so
I'm sorry. You said the problem of the users are not have a means of getting involved.
They're often invited, but they're not aware of it. Part of what we try to do is to make our interest aware of this, and in our case, we pick our spots as to where we really put our shoulder into writing a standard. And the obvious
this
place.
Looks like, okay, so I see you've got something up here for PV, but this is actually more like you're running a fluid through a darkly coated object that's going to pick up energy and through direct radiation. So
Tell you what, since you're looking at that level, I'll just stop this statement about ASHE. I won't go too long, other than to say that we saw who wrote that standard, and we can see from the ASHE website that the obvious people, the obvious organizations that are using it are Arizona State University.
Right.
And I'm not sure where Mount Marymount is, but it would make sense that the sunnier climates have.
Although they've got New Jersey there, and they've got there is a lot of Arizona, right? There's
right.
Interesting. So New Jersey and some California, out of California, and Texas. You're right. It's going to be. That's the place, of course, where they're most likely to want to. Where they feel that they would have the most value out of something like this, right?
Right, and also that the utility environment promotes it. It's it strikes me that Arizona is the marquee state for solar power. Maybe New Mexico might be another spot, but if the utility scenario or regime there is conducive, and seed money or even capitalization money is put in there, I'm not here to say anything other than the fact that we know that there are these organizations, and there are many of them, sustainability organizations in our industry. They don't seem to find themselves at the table when documents of this nature are being developed, and there's probably a reason for it. Is that as you can see here, that this organization seems to be a gathering place, or a place where organizations, higher educations, you can get somewhere down here. They say if you want an estimate for getting more of this in your campus, then come to us. Somewhere on this page, they indicate that that you can. Oh, here we are, EcoMotion Solar Advisors. So what this is essentially a marketing campaign for solar, for different types of alternative energy technologies. So
I see that, yeah.
So it's probably not important to them yet about how these things are rated. Their primary objective and way of financing themselves is to be an intermediary between the customer and to have a presence on the web, so that the affiliation and the sort of affiliation core collaborative tendencies of our industry are that everybody sort of wants to do what everybody else does first, but they also want to be the leader. You run into that kind of stuff. That's not my point. So here now comes a document where we have a chance to actually affect how I just lost it. Here we go. So this is the product itself, and it's dilutive, and I felt that at least we should make an intelligent review of it. And so what I'm hoping here, Craig, in the 5 minutes that we have left, is that you can just say what you know, what you've observed from it, and I can give you control of the screen, and you can step through it.
Well, it looks to me like they set forth basically what they want is they want to provide the people who might be wanting to purchase this equipment, and they want to be able to justify this, right? They want to be able to say that there is some sort of a rating standard by which people can compare one product to another, right? It doesn't look to me like it's necessarily, and I may be wrong here, I mean, they're trying to make some sort of an estimate, but it's basically a normative calculation. It's a little like the IPLD values of chillers.
Yeah.
In other words, they have a set of bins that, or like the EPA mileage ratings, right? They're not necessarily reflective of what you'll actually get. The standard isn't something that will produce something that you can put it into your backyard and say, well, this allows me to tell exactly what my payback is going to be. Mm-hmm. But it is because the standard it's got 3 different kinds of days, and it has a fair amount of what seems plausible in math. But the idea is if you're going to buy it from one person or another person, at least hopefully they're going to be compared against the same conditions, right? Is that right?
That's right. I like the term plausible amount of math. I like that.
Well, I mean, they've got a lot of ASHRAE calculations are pretty much simple arithmetic.
Yeah.
But they write it up, and they do define them as equations. But to some degree, I think sometimes the math that they publish it's not really as complicated as they try to present it as. But the standard at least does take into effect certain kinds of things as far as angles of incidence of the radiation and so on. I'm not sure. I didn't see anything about the wavelengths and stuff. In other words, the spectrum, right? Of whether that's even
Greg, are you able to wiggle
right?
But
if they're going to be testing it, they're going to be, the people who are going to test it are going to need to have the technological ability to, without too much trouble, apply the right amount of radiation to the object, right, in the right with the right irradiance. I'm wondering, the long wave irradiance, lambda greater than 3 micrometers in watts. It looks like they have got it. I am.
Craig, you're able to show us on the screen. Craig, could you wiggle your mouse around? You should be able to flip us through the parts of the document.
Well, I'm just looking. I'm just wondering. The one thing that I was wondering about this standard, and I don't know if it's there or not, is, I mean, the solar irradiance that you get is obviously different levels of intensity at different bandwidths.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. I mean, if it looks like what you want, if you really are. Ooh, what did I just do? I think I clicked on something I shouldn't have.
You clicked on something. Let me get you back to where you need to be. There you go. Go ahead.
Okay. What I'm wondering here is that in other words, if you hit, if you have photovoltaic devices, I do know this, right? You hit it with, they're going to be sensitive to certain kinds of wavelengths and more than others. And in certain things, that if we're going to use the standard should be there so that people can make effective comparisons between products, right? That's in our interest. So the standard, you wouldn't want a standard, I guess, in that regard that would allow a main variable like, so that it could be gained, right? You remember the difference between, say, you're going to rate your amplifier, your audio amplifier, and you really ought to be using root mean square numbers instead of peak values and things,
Is that tracking anywhere in this document that you can see?
I'm looking at, well, this is what I was wondering is, and I don't know the answer. Maybe it doesn't matter so much. Maybe they're just going to, I don't see anywhere where it says that the irradiance will be, maybe it's just assumed that the irradiance will be the, the spectrum that you would get, at such and such a place on, and it does have where the total. I mean, we know what the sun's irradiance, what its spectrum is, right, at the outside of the atmosphere, and we know also that it's a little different at the bottom of the atmosphere because there's, absorption that goes on, certain kinds of wavelengths. I'm not sure it said that it should be, because if you were going to do this, let's suppose you were going to irradiate something with artificial light. Yeah. If you're going to use artificial light and have that be that could still have the total amount of power output, per square meter. Now wait a minute, per meter, and this degree, is that degrees Kelvin, watts, square meter? Where is that at?
On the page?
Kelvin? I don't know the answer to the question, but the point is, I would want probably, certainly if there was to know what the actual frequency are that you're hitting this thing with, right? Okay. It should be the frequencies that you're going to experience if you actually put it into the field, or at least that they're testing them against the same thing. Mm-hmm. So no, I guess I'd have to read it. Effective diffuse solar irradiance. Solar irradiance, product of the integrals. Okay, here's longitudinal incidence. These are angle incidence modifiers. I'm not sure. Effective solar irradiance. The total shall be calculated sector of the direct beam and diffuse. I don't know if it makes a difference or not, but it doesn't seem. Maybe the assumption here is that we're dealing with the actual, solar radiance that you would have during the, here on Earth at sea level. I'm not sure altitude is in here either.
So we can ask this video recording will be available to the committee as well as to everyone else in our industry. So this is actually a more effective way of getting some of our ideas across to the committee, and they'll be able to, hopefully we'll get an answer from them on some of these questions.
Well, it would be interesting to know whether the writers of the standard think that makes any difference.
Yeah,
and it might not, because if it is just, basically it's just the, well, I know that the color of the thing will make a difference based on the, maybe it doesn't. Now I don't know. It seems like if you're going to test something and you're going to want to look at what you're really, what appears to be doing is they're saying, here's what we do. You have to hit it with this kind of light. You have to measure these angles of incidence and so on. And then you want to take your fluid and you want to measure the temperature differentials that you get, right? In other words, how much of it is actually transmitted to the fluid. And I wonder if it makes a difference, right? Whether, in other words, if you're running through you know, if you have light of a certain frequency, you know, as long as the total energy is the same, whether you could what do you say, rig or cook your device, you know, to make it look better than somebody else's.
Right, and that's probably what underlies this standard, as many other product standards. Steve, I want to make good on my promise. You've been very generous with your time. I know you have a 2 o'clock meeting. I'll post this on the blog site over here, and it's probably just enough to get the committee thinking, and I'll see what I can do to see if we can get this organization, this sustainability group, if they're interested in getting this far down in the weeds. So I will bring you up to date on this, and I'll post it and send you the link. And thank you very much for your time, Craig. I think we can close this out. I'm going to stay on the call, at least as far as your involvement.
Okay, I got to go talk about it.
Great. Take care, Craig.